Mormon, 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 Mormon. I know a Mormon boy. He is my pride and joy. He knows most everything from Elmo on down. Woo! One day I'll be his wife. We'll have eternal life. Oh, how I love that Mormon boy. Hello, friend, and welcome back to my studio. Today, I'd like to talk a little journalistically again about being ex-Mormon. This isn't an easy subject for me to talk about for a lot of reasons. I grew up in that religion and still have a lot of loved ones who practice it, so I really can't hate on it too strongly, or those relationships will be strained for it. I also don't really define myself as an ex-Mormon. I mostly don't think about it like that. I just see myself as a person. But this last week, I've been reading some books that have got me thinking on the subject, and I want to talk about it. I just need a little practice to find the right words. While I talk about why I left the Mormon faith, I'll be working on painting all the little items on the desk. I'm nearing the end of this piece, so subscribe to see how it turns out. And if you like this style of video, give it a like so I know to make more. Now, back to the story. For the most part, my leaving of the church was a gradual event. There wasn't a single instance that made me exit with hatred. It was more a discovery that the person I liked being was not the kind of person that religion wanted me to be. There was one dramatic moment when I just knew in my gut, though, that I had to leave. I had just had a sleepover with a high school friend. It was at the end of my sophomore year, and I was watching YouTube videos quietly while waiting for her to wake up in the morning. We were sharing a bed, so I'm not sure why I was doing that, but there's the setup. I clicked on a music video for Sia because I recognized Shia LaBeouf, and it was for the song Elastic Heart. The music video is highly metaphorical and can mean many different things to different people, but the emotions it shows are raw and crazy strong. The choreography is beautiful. The set, simple, and the song imbued it all with such a rich heartache. It goes through pain and forgiveness and change and outgrowing, and it just captures so much human experience in just a few short minutes. It brought tears to my eyes that overflowed to my cheeks as I watched it a second time immediately. The feeling I had then was of complete knowing. This was art, beauty, pain, and humanity on a level so strong and succinct that I had no doubt in my mind that what I believed in more than anything else is in people having rich, wonderful, painful lives of their own, having heartache, having ecstasy, losing and loving and growing and changing. And I did not believe in any corner of my being that God had anything to do with all of that. The God I was raised to believe in would have cast this work of art out completely for its immodest dress and violent themes. The God I was raised to believe in would frame heartache as a way to grow closer to Him, not to grow closer to each other and your own self. All strength was to be attributed to Him, and suffering was to be for Him. I was supposed to pray for thankfulness if I ever managed to make a piece of art that moved people like this. I was supposed to live as a vessel for a being who decided for me what was beautiful and worth watching and what wasn't. But this was beautiful, and my God would have hated it. So I left Him, and I never looked back for 1 second. I've regretted leaving pretty much every guy in my life, except for God. Leaving Mormondom was the scariest and most freeing thing that I ever could have done. They build such a community, such a life plan. They want every single thought of yours to be their choice and every decision in service of their plan. God's plan, I suppose, but told through strange men. I don't want any God to make my choices for me, tell me I shouldn't like what I like, and I should enjoy what I hate. Shoulds are no way to live a life. In leaving that faith, I was leaving behind nearly everyone I knew. Every single family member, every life plan I had, and I floundered in the dark with nothing but my conviction that this was the right choice for me. I floundered, I fumbled, I flourished, and I fought like hell. I made so many turns in the wrong direction, but they weren't wrong turns because they led to the next thing, which led to the next, and along the way, I learned what it is to actually live a life. Because before I was not living, I was just breathing and trying my very best to be the embodiment of someone else's ideas, trying to convince myself that they were my own choices, but when I actually made my own choices, I became a real person. I think sometimes of the people that I grew up with that are still in that church. My high school bully, as a friend told me recently, everyone had a high school bully, has a kid now and is still Mormon. And in a bitter, jaded way, I love that for her. I can't think of any other choice that erases a person quite like Mormon motherhood. From 12 years old, I was taught to gather talents and knowledge and faith, not for myself, but so that I can be the best possible wife and mother. I was to spend every spare moment giving myself away, from cooking every meal, running the household, raising the children, loving the husband, doing service for the neighbors, doing service for church members, spending time in church and planning church lessons, talking with the other church women about ways that we can keep giving more and more. I have had depression as long as I've had independent will, and let me tell you, that kind of life sounds like a living hell, and it always did. At my most faithful, I was fearful of maintaining that level of servitude in every facet of life. I even had a professor in my Mormon college claim that a wife should consider how hard it is when she rejects sex and should put out even if she doesn't entirely feel up to it. My time, my body, my mind. None of it was to be my own. And damn it, even though I hate this chick, I don't want that for her. It's a life of never being enough, never doing enough, always giving 100%, and feeling guilty for any time spent on yourself. Every tired thought or passing fancy of freedom is to be shamed back into God-fearing submission. If I were a more righteous woman, I could have handled this load better. If I only prayed more, I skipped last night from being tired, and now today everything is falling apart. The budget is tight this month, so I can do more of the cooking by hand. I have to set a good example for the kids and read scriptures every single night, no matter what. That kind of shit. All day. Every day. After I turned 18, while I was still faking being Mormon to avoid college debt, I was supposed to go to Relief Society every Sunday. I think I actually attended that hour-long meeting a total of 5 or 6 times. I just couldn't stand the bullshit they spewed. Every single hour was filled with subtle shaming for any individuality or selfish wants. Sure, it was more coded than openly whipping the sinners, but you know how people, and especially confined women, can be super mean while saying nice things? It was a lot like that kind of thing. My depressed ass couldn't force myself into those tight little chairs to be lectured in layers about my inadequacies. Well, I was reading a book that brought up another angle that I had kind of forgotten about. This book, published 10 years ago, is anti-19th century feminism, the wave of feminism that preached things as crazy as women voting and school teachers not losing their jobs once they got married. It has two main female characters, one who chooses to marry a farmer, and one who chooses to live in London and join the suffragettes. I picked up on the anti-feminist themes on page 1, but hoped it would be subtle enough to not ruin the plot. Unfortunately, it was the plot. The plot is that the farmer's wife is bad at housework, but tries really hard and uses women's books about housemaking to improve her skills. The book gives advice like, make sure to dress up the table when you serve your labored-over meals because it gives another element to the dining experience. And, by the way, it also wasn't the custom for women to eat alongside their men most of the meals. Just wanted to point that out. Another piece of advice is to be friendly with your servants, so they'll be more agreeable when you need them to work on their day off. So, this farmer's wife cooks 3 meals a day, all with great love and care, while growing an herb garden for garnishes and handwriting letters for her husband since her writing is nicer, and in this work she feels happy and fulfilled and grows to be a stronger woman each day. Well, the suffragette woman in London hates herself more and more, spends all of her time being afraid in her dark bedroom, and becomes less and less personable. I wonder what the moral of the story could possibly be here, right? And yes, there's always a moral of the story. Every single piece of media has someone's worldview and some kind of objective in it, especially this one. Well, reading that reminded me of the myth of leaving the church. The Mormon faith packages all of these choices for you in a beautiful little bundle called Living Your Best Possible Life. It preaches that you just feel better inside making the choices that they want you to make, and making the choices they don't want you to make will bring you to inner turmoil and life misery. And I believed that shit until I discovered the liberation of swearing and thereby not being pained every time I heard a swear word. I can remember hearing swear words in songs as a personal offense, as a stab to the gut about how sinful the world outside of me and my faith were. And I got a little pedestal of self-righteousness because I used vocabulary outside of those swear words, and that made me more intelligent and creative. But now, swear words are just another color in my crayon box, not a sign of degradation surrounding me. I discovered tattoos. I love them. I got my first one after I was, assaulted, more than assaulted, but you know, and I wanted to reclaim my body. And the feeling of art on my body makes me genuinely happy. And even the pain of the tattoo process is kind of cathartic for me, as my depression embraces pain, and at least this pain is for a prize. I like the way that my ears look with jewelry in them. Mormons can have ear piercings, but only girls and only one per lobe, because that makes a lot of sense. I discovered that I liked watching R-rated movies. Some of the best films in history are R, and no argument can convince me that the presence of dildos in Everything Everywhere All at Once is more important than the insanely magnificent message of love. Have you seen Poor Things? So much sex, and so much life, and so much marvelous self-discovery. I discovered I like sex. I genuinely feel sad for people who have only had sex with the person they married. It can be fine, sure, but they only know that one body. I love having known how different bodies fit and work together, how each person has their own way of doing things. It's like kissing. Everyone kisses a little different. And if I'd only ever kissed one person, I wouldn't know a lot of the things I know about it. Like how girls kiss more timidly and nervous men go tongue first. And truly, I'm glad that my husband has slept with other people too. I know that we like being with each other because we like being with each other, not just because it's the only sex we know. I like wearing immodest clothing. I don't like the way that my upper arms look in sleeves. They're large and unflattering. But in a tank top, they're strong and sexy looking. Shorts cut off at the knee are the same kind of thing. I like my dresses to reach about halfway down my thigh because it's flattering and it's freeing. I wear what I feel comfortable and happy in, not what I think will cover me enough to avoid men thinking about me sexually. Maybe I think about them sexually, you know? Maybe people who want to picture your body will do it regardless of clothing style. Maybe my bare shoulders make sexually repressed men think about sex. But okay, so could the way I walk. So could bending over to pick something up. Does that mean I shouldn't bend over to pick anything up? Is that how this works? I discovered I like alcohol. I like feeling something other than stone cold sober every now and then. I like the warm, buzzing life it breathes into my body. I like to chat when I'm feeling just a little buzzed. I like to look at my own life in a different way when my whole body is floating on the ground as I dance drunk. I enjoy weed. Drugs are fun. My anxieties fly out the window with a little weed, and everything is funny, and I want to connect more deeply. Why is that bad? Why should I hate myself for ever having even tried it? Even coffee is something to feel ashamed for, but energy drinks aren't. Another great logical rule there. They say it's about not being addicted to anything, but sugar is as addictive as caffeine, and they are so hooked on that, it's not even funny. The Mormons and their soda shops and cookie chains, but it's not coffee, because coffee is a sin. You see what I mean about these rules made up by someone else? I make my own rules for myself. I'm a very honest, kind, self-improving person, and I care so much about the people around me. I would argue I care more about the people around me than I would Mormon, because Mormon, I would expect God to come bail everything out. But I don't believe that, so I pick up litter. I think the driving force of any zealous religion is fear and group dynamic. When I was an absolutely devout child, I imagined my life plan in the church being the best option for me because it would keep me away from bad things and help me do the best things with my life. Of course, I wanted the best possible life. I would spend all that time people spend finding themselves on raising the happiest and best damn family there ever was. I would be educated and married to a strong, faithful man, and he would provide for us. Holy shit, does that life sound like a nightmare now? Now that I've lived some more, I was coaxed into thinking that I wanted that because I had so much fear of ruining my life. I was afraid of the things that I wasn't supposed to like. They could take a hold of someone and control them. Ironic, isn't it? Fear of being controlled by things outside the church. And now that I've lived more, I see how much of life, the richest parts sometimes, are in the mistakes. It's the Tajin on the watermelon, the salt in the cookies. I had to start somewhere, and knowing what I didn't want for myself is a crucial step to get anywhere. It's so scary to leave the life path of the Mormon Church, to venture into the dark unknown with stories of monsters at every turn, and not to mention the whole group dynamic element of leaving. It is a fact that social groups that make heavy sacrifices to be there are the most devout and tightly knit groups. Cue religion. Additionally, the us versus them dynamic is older than the Bible, and boy, oh boy, do Mormons employ it. They think they're being attacked personally by your life choices being different than their life choices. They find it an affront to their goodness to hear the vulgar art of the world outside them. They find offense in your tank top and tight pants. They would never say that they're better than anyone, of course not, but they think they're doing better things and making better life choices and living better lives and building a better afterlife. So, And I could go on about the way that suffering is framed as a cross to bear that brings you closer to heaven, when so much of the suffering is either just a part of living or manufactured by their tight frames of belief. They're basically like, oh, your mom died to teach you a lesson, and that lesson is to trust in God's plan. It's such a selfish way to think, really. But I'm not trying to write a slander piece against this faith. Not really. If I wanted to do that, there's a lot of church history that I could discuss. At the end of the day, my own family is in it for life, and I know that it gives them a certain amount of sure choices and peace of mind, and the lives they live are not bad ones. I want them to choose what is best for them. And while I believe the fullest happiness lies outside that church, I also believe very, very strongly that they get to make their own choices. And I'll do my best to not actively campaign against them, if I can't entirely support it. This is all something I've been trying to figure out how to talk about since I was 15. And I'm glad that you were interested enough to listen. Let me know in the comments if I should tell more stories about it, or just keep moving on. If you like my work, join my newsletter so you'll know when I put it up for sale. And thank you for being here. I'll see you next time, friend. Bye! We are the Mormon girls, we wear our hair in curls, we love to sing and dance and have lots of fun. Woo! We are the biggest flirts, we don't wear many skirts, oh how I love my Mormon boy.